Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. If you're here, hit the like button. I want to thank those of y'all that are already subscribed. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. All right. Now I'm about to explain something. Right, we're doing DoorDash math. Right, I know we're familiar with DoorDash. Right, we be greedy. We be expressing and exhibiting big back behavior sometimes. Right, so we order from DoorDash and all them type of places. Right, through those apps. All right. Now, if there's anything that you don't understand, please put your question in the comment section. All right. If you just got a comment, put your comment in the comment section, and please share this video with at least one other person. So let me give you some backstory. I was motivated to do this video when I got this little flyer in the mail. Right. It's from DoorDash. It says get 30% off your next order up to $10 value on orders $12 plus. Right. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, all right, I understand what this means, but I don't want to take for granted that everybody understands what this means, right? So, as part of financial literacy and as part of just being an informed and educated consumer, right, we should understand how algebra can help us to understand this advertisement. Because if you don't understand the advertisement, you might end up feeling salty because you might expect to get a certain level of a discount and actually not get that, right? And they tell it to you, but they tell it to you in the advertisement, but if you don't understand the language of mathematics, then you won't be able to comprehend what they said or what they printed on this advertisement. And this is why I always say we must know how mathematics is a language. We must know how to read it, speak it, and write it. All right. So, and you know what's funny too? I'm not gonna hold you, but I don't use these apps that often. So, but like last week sometime, I used the Uber Eats app, right? And I normally don't, but I used it. And next thing I know, like 2 days later, I get this flyer from DoorDash in the mail. I'm like, yo, it was funny to me because I was like, that's just like how, like, when you go on with your life and then you and your ex see you out with somebody and then they want to, like, text you out the blue or like, or like, what I'm saying? Like, slide in your DMs, like, hey, big head, like one of them type things. Like, it's the same thing. Like, they somehow found out. I don't know, like they found out some kind of way, like that, I placed the Uber Eats order, and then the next thing you know, I get this flyer in the mail randomly, right? And check what it say. It say come back and save on your neck, like come back. They talking about some come back, like we was in a relationship or something. Like they want me to come back. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, like I got some information up here, right? This is basically the information that's on the flyer. 30% off your next order of $12 plus. What does that mean? $12 and up. The subtotal, not the final total, not the grand total, the subtotal. We must know the difference between the subtotal and the grand total. The subtotal is like before the delivery charge, before the service charge, before any taxes, right? That's the subtotal. All right. The grand total includes all that, the tip that you add in. So you can't place an order for like, so okay, this is important for you to understand, right? You can't like place like a $5 order for something and then the service charge, delivery charge, and whatnot, and then the tip is going to put you over $12 and then expect to get 30% off of that. No, that ain't how this works. Your subtotal got to be $12 or more. The subtotal. So know the difference between the subtotal and the grand total. All right, that's number one. So you see, like this is where math comes in handy. So the kids sitting in class about why I got to know this. When am I use this in life? Okay, so we see, right? Have this conversation with your children. Teachers, if you're watching this, have this conversation with your students. Oh, by the way, shout out to We Need Black Teachers, right? Y'all know where this t-shirt came from? Shout out to the Center for Black Educator Development, right? And also the Black Male Educator Convening Conference, which takes place in Philly every November, right? I had the opportunity to present at that conference twice, once in 2022 and again in 2023. We now in 2025. I might submit an abstract to try to present at this year's conference in November. But definitely shout out to that organization and the work that they're doing to try to increase the number of Black teachers in the classrooms across the country. All right. So, and they gave me this T-shirt, I think in 2023 when I presented. So yeah. All right. Shout out to them for that too. For this T-shirt. All right. Now, also next bullet point: the max value of the discount is $10. That's important, right? That's important, right? Which brings us to the question that I posed: what is my discount off of a $50 order, right? In order to do math, we must know how to read and have reading comprehension ability, right? Because if not, we might think that even if you know how to calculate percentages, you might think that, okay, if I place a $50 order and if 50 is my subtotal, right? Before the taxes, before the delivery charge, before the tip, right? I'm $50, right? My subtotal is $50, right? I might think that I'm gonna get 30% off of that. I'm gonna get 30% off of that. That might be what I think. And I might do this. I might say, well, what's 30% of 50? I might say, well, I know that 10% of 50 is $5 because the way you find 10% of any number is just take the decimal point, even if it's not written, but slide it over to the left one space. So 10% of $50 is $5. 10% of $50 is just $5. And then you, as my homegirl down in North Carolina, Lanisha Boone, CEO of Bud and Bear Fruit Education, who does good work and does work around mathematics education, right? And she says, scale up that $5, scale it up by 3, right? Because scaling it up is like multiplying by, right? Scale up, multiply by, right? So then take the 5, multiply it by 3, because 10% is $5. 30% is just 10% times 3. So then I should be able to take the $5 and multiply that by 3 or scale it up by 3, which gives me $15. So you would think that you would get $15 off of this order, knocking you down to $35 plus the fees, plus the delivery charge, the tax, and whatever, right? But let's see if that's what happens, right? Let's see if that's what happens. Well, what did we just say? We said $15, right? What does this say? Max value of discount is $10. So no, you're not getting $15 off. You're not getting $15 off. You're getting $10 off, right? This is why we got to read the fine print, right? Because even if you do understand how to calculate the percentage, you got to read first. Because you'll be thinking, oh, I'm going to get 30% off. And notice how, so dig what they do, right? So this is part of media literacy. They put the 30% in real big font, a real big font to pull you in, right? And then they say up to a $10 value in a much smaller font because they don't want you to pay attention to that. They trying to get you to fall for the banana in the tailpipe, right? But these are just advertising tricks that's been around forever. But we have to be more educated as consumers so that we don't get caught up and we don't end up putting ourselves in a situation where you end up mad. Because why would you be mad, right? Just do the math. Do the math, read the fine print, right? Comprehend, right? We got to know how to read though. And we got to practice reading. And our children need to know how to read. So if you're a parent watching this, make sure your children know how to read. And when I say read, I mean really critically read. Not look at a page, recognize syllables, put them together and pronounce words. Critical reading, knowing what those words mean, knowing what that collection of words mean in a sentence. What does it mean? What's the meaning behind it? Or as our teachers used to tell us 30, 40 years ago, know how to read between the lines, know how to interpret, know how to comprehend, know how to critically analyze what is being said, right? Make sure our children know how to read so that they don't get caught up and they don't fall for this type of stuff, right? So, yeah, so we already answered this question basically. I ain't even really had to write nothing on the board. What is my discount off of $50 order? If we did the 30% off discount of $50, we would get 15. Because again, 10% of $50 is $5 because we take the decimal point, slide it to the left one space, or just multiply 50 by 0.10, or which is 1/10, or divide 50 by 10, right? That's the same thing. 50 divided by 10 is 5, right? So $5 is 10%. And then we scale it up by 3 or multiply by 3. The $5 times 3 gives you $15, right? Gives you $15. And then you're going to take the $15, but you can't take $15 off because the max value of the discount is $10. So you're going to max out at $10. So even if your calculated discount, 30% off 50 is $15, because somebody would get this and be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? We could order, let's get $100 worth of food. Let's feed everybody. Let's everybody chip in, right? We getting 30% off anyway. $100 order, we gonna get $30 off. We only gonna pay $70. Nope. You're not getting $30 off. You're only getting $10 off. You're only getting $10 off, right? So look, yes, and this is just another example of like just everyday math, right? So even your junk mail, parents, your junk mail can be used as a tool to practice math, right? So you don't have to wait. Your children shouldn't have to wait till they go to school to learn math. Your children shouldn't have to wait till they go to school to learn how to calculate percentages, right? Your children shouldn't have to wait till they go to school to learn financial literacy and develop financial literacy. They shouldn't have to wait for school for that. School is a good place for them to practice those skills. Practice is key, right? Practice is very important. School is a great place for practice. The way the schools are set up right now, though, unless you live in a certain district where things is a certain way, schools are not equipped to be primary. Most schools are not equipped to be the primary educator of your children. They're not. Most are not, right? Especially if your children are not at least on grade level in terms of math, right? If your children is a few grade levels back, 1, 2, 3, or 4 grade levels back, then it's really not the place for primary education. because there's too many learning gaps they got. Their learning gaps is like this big, and that ain't the typical classroom ain't fit to accommodate that. It just ain't. I'm just here to tell you. I just want to be honest with you, right? So we got to figure out ways as a community and as parents and grandparents, uncles, aunties to educate our own children, which is why I started this YouTube channel. So you're in luck. If you lock into this YouTube channel, watch videos on a regular basis, then your children to be straight, and then they can go to school and just practice. They can practice what's being presented to them in class because they'll already be familiar with it. So whatever's on the curriculum, I probably got a video on this channel about it. So they can learn it here and then go to school and practice. All right. But yeah, and then you can use junk mail. You can use junk mail to have them practice different skills and whatever. All right. So again, shout out to the Center for Black Educated Development. Also, shout out to the Black Male Educator Convening Conference every November in Philadelphia. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button. If you have any questions about anything we did, please put your question or your comments in the comment section. And also, please share this video with at least one other person. I'm out. Peace.